Senior Protocol, I am Keitan. I'm a hobbyist game developer / YouTuber. And I am gonna try and get some work done today, although my brain is still not quite there just yet. I did not get great sleep last night, and I am starting late too. And I am super, what's the word? You know, I have not worked on this project in a while, so I am very low on, what's the word I'm looking for? Momentum. I'm very low momentum at the moment. It'll take me a minute to kind of figure out what I'm doing today. I have a couple of different things I could be working on. I'm not entirely sure if I really want to be working on all of them, but there's definitely things that I need to do. So, I've had sort of a timeline, or a sequence of things I wanted to get functional in the game. And I believe the next thing I wanted to get to was super abilities. Or specifically, I was calling it core abilities before, and now I'm kind of moving into calling it super abilities to kind of align with how I called it in Toaster Crash. But it'll probably still remain as being powered by what's called core charge. Just because, you know, again, it's the Titanfall reference, kind of what that's supposed to be. But in order to actually get that started, there's a whole bunch of things that need to be done. Hang on a second. And it's not just what I have listed here. I have a handful of things that need to be done as part of this as well. Now, the player does technically already have the concept of supercharge, and we actually do still need to do something, which is when the player collects core charge orbs above what their current maximum core charge is, it needs to drop additional core charge. So you do need to get that done. Although it's not like a critical thing that needs to be done right now. But it's definitely a thing that needs to be done. Yeah, as I was saying, so let's go ahead and, first of all, let me kind of resize all of this, and then we're going to reopen C# project. It's been a while. According to GitHub, it's been 11 days since I've last opened the project, which sucks. Just the fact that that is greater than 7 is not good. It's not good for my momentum. So I gotta get back into things. But if we go ahead and look at base player abilities.cs, so we have a public integer core charge. I do believe this is the integer that is modified when collecting core charge orbs, which I do believe it is. Cool. So that concept is already here. The player does technically already have a core charge value. But currently, obviously, they don't have any way of actually using the core charge. It's like they have it, but we need to be able to actually use it. Now, I have to remember, because it's been a hot minute, do you have an input systems actions? Oh wait, no, toaster gun controls is one of these. Yes, we do have core ability is bound. It's bound to Q. Overwatch. Har har. Oh my gosh, that reminds me of the other night when I was playing Team Fortress 2. And we had a medic on the team who was like panicking because they couldn't figure out what they rebound their Uber charge button to. And then when they finally found out it was bound to Q, everybody was, like, roasting them. And then I also added in on there, like, we know who you are, Overwatch boy. And, yeah, it's funny. So, yeah, so the button is bound in our input system. Although I probably will change the name of this to super ability. which probably means that we're also going to end up having to fix that in code, because I believe it's still referred to as core ability in code. But I get the feeling that if we are going to set something up to let the player change controls, it's going to end up taking from that name. Actually, it probably won't, because we'll probably end up setting up a localization on those. Now that I think about it. Oh well. We will want to set up localization on changing controller settings. But I am still going to need to make sure I can set up. But I actually, honestly, probably should just, like, change it back, leave this core ability in code. But just in case, we are going to change it to super ability here. I could even rename the thing. Apply. So let's now change that to that. That should be all we need for now from that. Set something up to bind that action later. Specifically, what we're gonna need to do, there are a couple of things I want to handle first and foremost. We do already have the state system. It's a general idea, so we need to break down what we need to do in parts, right? So let's go over what's going to happen when we do a super as Katon, the first character that we're adding. What's going to happen is, obviously, first of all, there's going to be a dramatic zoom in of the camera as we start up the ability. This is actually going to be a central theme for all three of the main characters, is that when you activate the super, the camera will zoom in on them quickly, which we do already have functionality for that, specifically within the states system. In fact, let's take a look to see if we can find player state depth entry. This is something that adjusts the camera. Camera look range and camera distance to player. Out of curiosity, can we also change, like, the acceleration? Doesn't look like we can. Interesting. I might set something up so that this is actually set up, or is actually a thing that it can do, is change the acceleration values. So I did notice when we did the death system, it was a little slow. The camera was a little slow to move, and I might set up something, excuse me, to specify something custom. Excuse me. Suddenly I am gassy and coming together. This is the point where we handle those things. Do the distance player normal. We set look range to let max look range normal. I should really change these to, like, default instead of normal to make it a little bit more sense. But then I'd have to change the values in the inspector, and I don't feel like doing that. Because it would probably forget the values in inspector. So I don't want to do that. But, can't remember if interfaces can have a default declaration or not. I could also have a separate interface for doing the acceleration. I think I probably will. Public interface state override camera acceleration. Public float camera acceleration. Your status player. And also have one for deceleration. Could also have one for max speed. Okay. So we'll go back to player camera controller. We'll set those up. Those should all three be floats, right? Yeah, they are. Because max speed should get used in this update value, in this update method, right? Yeah. Camera acceleration. Camera deceleration. And then we will check if... So let's actually... Since we're gonna access this multiple times, we might as well cache this. And I might even leave it as var, even though, I mean, I might actually not. I'll use explicit type, base player state. Okay, so we check if it's a state adjust camera. Which actually, I'm going to need to rename this since we're going to probably want another one down here. I could also just... I'm going to rename it like State 1, honestly. If player state is state override camera acceleration state 2. Override camera target, I think, actually gets used in input handler. Never mind, it's actually right here. At which point we can actually reuse player state. This is all basically part of the same set parameters depending on player state block of code. And we'll actually do something similar to what we were doing in here. Do state 2, camera acceleration. call this A. A is greater than 0. Use A to set acceleration. Similarly, we'll do D for decel. You're also missing max speed, which can be M. There we go. And then we just have to sub those values in where they were previously reading from the properties. So the acceleration will instead read from accel, max speed, and then decel. Awesome. Okay. If I remember right, actually, where's player states Katon? Player states Katon. We don't instantly set the camera. I thought there was something that I was using to set the camera instantly, or reset the camera instantly. I thought there was. Anyways, I'm actually going to go ahead and add iState override camera acceleration to the player state depth entry. And so I want to take a look at what the default camera values are. It's probably actually in the player character. Camera controller. And max speed being 100, acceleration 60, deceleration 0.05. I do want to make sure those get set into the mono behavior real quick. Where is that? There, camera controller. I'll set those values in here. So what's that? Max speed 100. Acceleration 60, 0.05. 60.05. Those are the default values. Now that I know what the default values are, max speed 100 is fine. So we can actually just return -1 from max speed. Probably return -1 for deceleration. It's acceleration that we need to fix. Which the default was, what, 60? We'll go with 200. And that'll be how we do that. I could also make a method that can be called on the camera controller to instantly set it to maximum speed. I kind of want to set that up, actually. Maybe. What happens if we just have it set immediately to 100 and we're like 1 meter away? I guess what specifically it would have to be like, if it's like 3, not specifically 1 meter away, but whatever value would take it less than 1 tick to get there. I think we do actually already kind of have a system for it. Yeah, actually, if the difference magnitude is less than the mean velocity. Wait. What happens when the velocity is greater? Was that actually kind of handled by this then? Difference magnitude divided by delta time times decel. Yeah, okay. I think that's doing that. Maybe. Some days I do wonder if it's easier for me to just use do tween. However, I've already dedicated my life to never needing do tween, which is probably a mistake, and I don't care. This is kind of a mess of code, but eh. One day I'll fix it. My sinuses are being weird again. Well, so, generally speaking, between most of the characters, there will be, like, the general behavior for these super abilities is that it will zoom in really quickly on them, and then zoom back out as they're kind of activating it. However, I don't think that means that there's going to be a generic state shared between all of them. The general idea is that the player's abilities component is going to handle the logic that happens based on the state of the ultimate button. And the idea behind that is a future-proofing thing in case I want to have something where you activate the super when you release the ultimate button, which isn't necessarily always going to happen, but generally speaking, it's a design pattern that I want there to be in place, especially for non-super abilities. The tactical ability actually should be handled like that, because, for example, Ami's one of Ami's tacticals is the pulse blade, and the idea is supposed to be that when you hold down the button, he pulls out the pulse blade, and then when you release the button, he'll instantly throw it at the target. Whereas if you just quickly tap the button, he'll go through the animation of pulling it out and then throw it at the target. So, there's that sort of trade-off. And that's a design concept, or that's a design pattern that I want to be capable with the ultimate button, though I don't think any of the current characters will use that, right? Because, the current characters are, Keitan is going to do Kraber Kick, where she will immediately, crouch down, then boost off into the air, become invulnerable. You can then move around the cursor, sort of like Doomfist of Overwatch fame. And then after a time, she will strike down on that point that you chose, and then deal massive damage to one target, and then a decent amount of damage in an AoE around that target. Specifically, I will probably want to make it so that if you don't hit a target, it will still deal damage, but it'll deal less damage. I want to deal more damage, both to the target and to surrounding enemies, if you actually hit something. And then Olivia's is going to be a super install state, basically. It'll zoom in, and she stances up, puts her gun away, by the way, so she cannot actually access her gun in this state, I think. I'm still hesitant on it. I'll figure out whether or not I really want her to be able to use her gun in this state. But the idea is supposed to be that in this state, she'll get damage resistance, and also whenever she makes contact with an enemy, she will do one of several grappler moves to them, which will also deal a lot of damage to that enemy, and also quite a bit of damage to enemies around that enemy. Possibly even with a little bit of steering, but we'll have to figure that out. Especially because one of those animations is supposed to be Seventh Holy Scripture, where she, has the pile bunker. I don't know how you'd steer that, because she doesn't, get up into the air with it. But I could make it so that you can steer the initial opening part of it, where she's charging forward with it. Maybe I could make that steerable. Very much fudge the animation to allow it to work like that, maybe. Just give it a little bit of extra wiggle room to where you can try and, land the AoE closer to more enemies if you want to. It's type of deal. It's one of them's gonna be Potemkin Buster. She's just gonna pick them up, put them on her shoulders, jump up, slam down, and that'll be very easy for me to say, while she's in the air, you can, air control to maneuver the point of impact. So there's Potemkin Buster, there's that C4. The third move is Driller C4, or Satchel Charge. I don't think I can do it. I mean, maybe, because the idea is that, like, she grabs them at first, and then has to plant a C4 on them. It could be that, like, if you use the movement inputs during that, as she, like, kicks off of the enemy after planting the C4, maybe it pops them up into the air a little bit, and that's how you control the moment of impact for that. But also, I think it might just be easier to make it not controllable. I think it might be easier to make it not controllable, so that's generally it. And then the idea is going to be that, like, the super install lasts for a certain time, and if you only do the grabs against minions and lieutenants, you can do an unlimited number of grabs. However, if you try to grab a boss or elite boss, you get one grab, and you will still execute the ability. You will execute the ability on elite bosses. You will be able to suplex an entire giant mech. You'll be able to suplex a flying titan. Okay, cool. And then it'll immediately end the super state after that. And then Amy's is going to be, you know, it zooms in as he pulls out the fucking Predator cannon from Titanfall 2. And we'll just fire that for 7 seconds. And it gets Smart Core. It's specifically going to be called Smart Core. Predator Cannon Smart Core is the full name of the super for Amy. Katon's is Arsenal Technique Kraber Kick, which is actually like the canon full name of her ability. And then Olivia's had a cool name, I think. Let me see if I can find it. It's like the idea is that they have a like subtitle and then a main title following it. Yeah, so Auto Counter Heavenly Scripture Phantasm was the idea. That's what hers is named. And you'll also see Code Kid was planned, but I am focusing on the main 3 characters for the first release. Code Kid will come eventually. Sorry, Code Kid will arrive eventually. So yeah, we'll break this down. With Katon, we want to do Kraber Kick. So, the first things first. We want the camera to zoom in as she's starting the ability. That can be handled by the state machine already. However, I do also want, like, super cut-in portraits, you know? The problem is I don't have those made yet, and they could be done fairly easily later. They are less of a priority than making the move function is kind of the priority. I will still make it so that when you activate a super, it should still play the same super noise from Toaster Gun. Which I can go find that to see what I was using, because I can't quite remember. I think I know what sound it was, but I do want to pull that up real quick. Was it animations? Oh, it is in animations. Begin super. That's loud. Ow, that's loud. Sorry about that. I'm gonna turn VLC down a little bit now that I have VLC open. Yeah, that was the sound from Toaster Crash for a super. Which is a handful of sound effects from my SFX disc. My stock sounds library. But it's decent enough for this. It'll work just fine. I think I actually originally made that sound for an old fighting game concept that never saw the light of day because Fighting games are difficult. I do so much art. Anyways. So yes, that can probably go into the player folder. Slap that in here. That's here. That's a little loud. You probably leave it as stereo because we're probably going to play it non-spatially anyways, I think. Although we'll probably want to tune the volume down a little bit. So that'll be the sound that gets used for that. So that means that we are going to need some audio source that will play that. Now, technically speaking, we could reuse the disposable that we have. However, you know, we do need to make sure that that disposable plays non-spatially. And I think that is an accessible value, but I'd have to check. If I go look up... Actually, we have audio source right here. Wow. How convenient. So yeah, spatial blend. This sounds like the same little slider that we can set up. So we should be able to access this then. Excuse me. That's why I don't see that then. Alright, so we'll just set spatial blend to 0 as we initialize that then. There's some stuff that I was using for getting like common sounds. I don't quite remember. I swear there was something I set up for that. I don't remember. Was that a breathe out container? There's status effect info. Oh, right, no, that's what that's for. Of course. So there's like damage sound handler, I think is what I was thinking of earlier. I think HUD style data might have some sounds to it. No? I thought for sure I had something for that, but oh well. I think for now we'll let these be part of base player abilities. Specifically, we're going to set something up using the new trick I learned. I'm going to do field serialized field public audio clip activate super sound. It'll be get with a protected set. In fact, a lot of these values should probably be protected rather than private. Maybe they don't necessarily have to. This protected set would mean that it has the ability to change it. It probably should. That's the only situation, and I don't think there's a situation which I want to change that, except by something very specific, which I'll probably end up creating some sort of extension for myself anyways. Okay. So with that, there is still a couple of things that I need to do first. So let's break it down again. With the thing, we start it up. We do probably be using dramatic pause too. I think we will actually like pause the game briefly whilst we're playing the first part of the animation. Or do we have to? Yeah, I think we do. And that's part of the reason why I set up the dramatic pause system. Because I think I was going to do that for supers. So that can still be handled within state. During it, we'll be setting up the camera controller to function during that. We actually go to player states generic. We're back in the player state depth entry. The way that we handle this is on player state tick. Actually, on player state entered, we'll immediately start a dramatic pause. And as soon as we get a player state tick that is not paused, that's when we do all of the stuff. Cool. That's in death dramatic pause time. Oh, which is that sort of public accessor to the private serialized variable. Here's the thing. I am actually way happier with using like the field serialized field trick on private set properties to make them show up in Inspector main problem is. That will involve telling Unity that those values have been changed. We'd have to add on formerly serialized as. That'd have to be field formerly serialized as too. I guess that's not that bad. And the main issue just being like consistency. Code consistency is a thing. But also, I don't want to do that right now. I want to get actual progress today. That's something we can do later. That is something we can do later. I think for now, we will focus on all the other things. So, the player state's K-Tone. We're gonna pin this now. Fuck. I know what happened. Unity recompiled and that caused the sound to replay. Oh god, that scared the crap out of me! Like, why the fuck is that sound playing again? I don't remember making that one of my stream alerts. Blech. Okay. So, I think the idea here is that we're going to divide this up into 3 states. The first one will be the entry state. Technically speaking, it'll actually only last about 1 tick because we're going to have a super pause. And then, as soon as that ends, we'll go into a state in which movement is allowed. Although we might set something up to where the character still doesn't move. Actually, because the thing is that we still want the camera to move. We still want the camera to move. Also, what if we want it to be off of crosshair instead of player position? Because then we could benefit from lock-on, maybe? I kind of actually do want to base it off of crosshair. But generally speaking, there's going to be 3 states to it. I think it's going to be the breakdown to it. First state being that entry state, where we do the super pause, and then she will take off. There will be the second state, in which it is the timer ticking down to when she'll strike down, where we will be choosing where to hit with it. And then the third state is her coming down and hitting. And doing the damage. But importantly, that does also mean, I think actually it does make more sense for us to do, I think it makes more sense for us to be able to move during it, because we want to be able to target someone as far away across the room as we can. And we'll have like a generous setup for it, for like detecting a hit. And if the player is if there's multiple targets close enough to the player's target crosshair, it'll do the full damage to them, I think, even if they won't necessarily be part of the animation. It's one thing that I would like to do, but probably won't do because of the fact that that complicates enemy state and means that we have to add additional animations for enemy state. But granted, we can actually just reuse some of Olivia's code. Or some of the animations for Olivia. So, yeah, I think we might do that. I want Katon to actually land on the enemy, and then have them kind of scoot forward type deal. Possibly even with the possibility of an alternate animation where she does the angry version of it, where she also like stops them several times. But that would be something that happens in like another campaign, not necessarily this campaign. Kind of do want to do that just as an exercise to make sure that that enemy state system does work for Olivia, because that's already been kind of written into the code for enemies to be able to do that. And it would be nice to kind of make sure that that's working, so that when we do it in Olivia, we kind of already have all of the systems working for it. Okay. In fact, that's probably something we probably want to bake into, because that's actually, you know what we want to do? In the enemy's behavior tree system for that, I want to make it so that when we set the enemy into one of those command grab states, we want to specify in a player state that'll read from with like an interface of I state enemy grappler, and then that can tell the enemy what position to place it in as well as what physics to have. Because for Olivia's setup, the physics will probably be handled by Olivia. But for Katon's setup, I might have... No, actually, I think that's pointless. I think we are going to have the enemy parent to Katon anyways. I think it makes more sense for the player to the enemy to parent to Katon and have Katon do the skidding. I want her to like skid forward when she lands. If she lands on an enemy. I might also have her skid forward if she lands on the ground. Now, the way I would want this to be handled is that there should be an animation of Katon slamming down. But everything is still tied to player position being already on the ground, I think. So, like, the beam would still be here. Like, let's say we want to ult this target dummy, right? And then what's actually going to happen is the player's actual physical position is right here. But then, like, visually, the animation, Katon will go, wha-bam! And then right here is when then it'll also have them, like, skid forward a little bit. Actually, probably a ways away. So let me reset those values. That's kind of what I want it to do. I'm running out of water. I gotta get more water in a bit. Problem is, that's a bean. We don't have animations on a bean. So yeah, I figure out how we want to figure that out until we have that. Now, here's the thing. You know what else I need? Right now there is an issue where the camera looks fucking awful whenever we are moving. It's not the camera that looks awful. It's actually just the player object that looks awful, because the player object is not properly interpolated in the physics system. Excuse me. And the way we fix that is we need a handle underneath the root object. We're gonna call this interp handle. Another thing we're gonna need to handle, I think all three of these supers are going to involve putting the gun away. Putting your currently held weapon away. So we need to figure out how we're handling that. Yes, but the idea is going to be with the capsule underneath the intern. That's the first part of this. Then we need to set something up to where that is interpolated per frame. However, we could also set something up to where that interp is also you could also just have a prototype component that animates the we'll like attach it to this capsule, and we'll say, hey, whenever we're in the state where we are going to do the super, send this motherfucker into space. And then as soon as we enter the striking say your purple, Yummy. Yeah, that's a late first attack. Nobody's been around in the chat. Oh, Hannah stole it. You're at Olives. You guys have fun. I'm gonna say meow to Olive. That is what I say. Yeah, as I was saying, I think it's gonna be how I end up working this. Is for prototyping purposes. I will set it up such that she will Hi, Olive. And there's Soda Steel Morgie is good. Okay. Second attack. Right. Okay. There's also effects and stuff that we want to do, but... Also, do we have a variable determining whether or not an entity can be grabbed? Off the top of my... Yeah, there is a can be grabbed boolean. Yeah. Check the group chat. Okay, I will check the group chat. Oh, wow, that is a tiny hitbox. What the fuck? I was not aware of this. See, I know about the, like, tiny actual joystick controller, because actually Amy gave me one. I did not know about the tiny hitbox. What the fuck? What the actual fuck? That's gross. God-fearing grand name time? That is gross, honestly. Anyways. Target dummies should actually we should make sure that these are set to not can be grabbed and can be staggered, because we don't want the dummy to be grabbed. Generally speaking, all enemies should be able to be grabbed, but anything that is like a breakable object should probably not be. Anyways.
Check it out, I'm in the house like carpet.
House like carpet. Okay, right, so the main thing that I want to do right now is I want to make that component that just moves the bean out of the screen. This should be a shortened hand pinion. Maybe. I mean, the thing is that we already have carpet. Like, we have... Where is it? We have carpet. And I think that's good enough. And then it's... Check it out, I'm in the house like carpet is the, you know... The inverse. You know? And also, that's why it is 400 channel points instead of 128 channel points. And also, I tend to find myself quoting the full, check it out, I'm in the house like carpet, more often than just saying any, like, part of it. Except for carpet. I don't think I say house like carpet all that often. We're gonna create a prototype script for this, I think. So, entities, player, I'm gonna do Kton. Oops. Create on the Hiver script. Prototype, Super animation. Oh, do you mean, like, the name of the redeem should be shortened? Is that what you mean? Toaster gun.
Carpet.
Carpet. I think check it out house like carpet is fine. We're gonna figure out how we're going to do this. I'm gonna set up a number of serialized fields, float, private, float, duration. Go to 25F. Quarter of a second. And then move distance. We want to properly put her off screen. Part of what's going to help with that is making sure that she is, like, above the camera position. But also, I don't want her to come from the camera. I think there's going to be a little bit tricky. So, like, I might make it so that, like, her angle of attack actually changes, depending on a couple of things. I might make it so that, for example, if you're here and your current crosshair target is down here. That's actually a question. Are we going to make it so that we instantly target our current crosshair target? Because that would be useful. But how useful? So I think, well, I will make it so that, if you press the button, she will instantly finish. Nah, because I want her to do the full voice line, too. My water is out. I'm going to be right back because I need to get some water. So I'm going to do a little stretch break, run a little ad break to smash pre-rolls and all of that. Do you please stick around for after I grab my water, and probably will also like go to the bathroom real quick, maybe. I'm not feeling it yet, but I might need it. All right, BRB. Your turn with more water. Congratulations, Amy. I don't know how the hell you did it with that thing, but congratulations. So the normal camera distance. It's 20. It's probably gonna run like 30 meters. Then I probably want an angle value. Which can't get an exact integer value. Of like 3/4. 67.5. We'll go with 64. Okay, now. To figure out... Another thing that I want to do is... I want to make it so that the player's movement component will lock the rotation during that. How do we set that up? What am I looking for? I'm looking for a player movement. Player movement. Here we go. Save this so far. You know what else we need to handle is disabling the weapon. I don't want it to count as holstered is the thing. By the way, we run tick reload state in our fixed update for an equipable weapon, but if the game object is disabled, how do we handle backpack reloads then? Is that actually something that's already handled? Yeah, I'm curious. I don't see anything in fixed update. Huh. guess I don't have anything set up for reloading holstered weapons yet. Excuse me. But it might be handled by the player itself, so that we don't have to worry about the weapon being enabled or disabled in pocket. Or maybe we do have to. I don't know. Might need to throw a Trello card out for that. As it stands, there is a lot of brain fog and momentum regaining we need to do, and so there's probably going to be a lot of stuff in which we're just going to be writing stuff down. Do we need weapon scripts to be active while holstered? We might need to. That's too many E's. For status effects and holstered. Actually, I should start calling it backpack reload. Backpack reloading. Currently, holstered weapons have game object disabled. This stops update methods from running. Options are just gonna do a numbered list. Handle these functions in separate public methods that can be called via the player's weapon holder script, or 2, handle the holstered state in a different way by only disable visual components and have status scripts, or have behavior scripts, I should say, acknowledge the holstered state appropriate. So I'll throw that into planning. Okay, so that's gonna be what we figure out now. So here's what I'm thinking. So if the player is up here, and we're targeting an enemy down here, I want to make it so that Keitan is set to directly face them, and then she'll pop off and get ready to strike. However, if the target is visually above Keitan, I actually want to flip the angles across the vertical axis, horizontal axis technically. So instead, she'll set the axis to negative in the z-axis. Or more specifically, I think we're going to end up doing is we take the intended forward, and then we take the z-axis of it, and then set it to absolute z-axis. Although that can still result in her clipping through walls. That's a thing that we need to worry about. Fuck it. I don't think I'm gonna make a big deal out of that for now. Oh, excuse me. For now, here's gonna be what we do. We're gonna have an update method. Also, internally, I'm going to set something up. Oh, that's right, we can't set a constant with vector 3 because we can only use initializers to make them. So I guess we have to make it a static. Can we do a static read-only vector 3? I think it's just 1 on the y-axis is the default position of the bean. Could also use a coroutine, maybe? Also, I'm gonna probably put some, like, fake hit pause into this. Where Katon and the enemy that she hits will stop for a second as we make contact, and then do the little skid. However, it won't actually do any sort of, like, pausing. And we can obviously get away with it if we are using the enemy's grapple state. So then the enemy isn't allowed to act anyways. Okay, but how do we determine when this happens? What we're going to do is probably just have it link, and we'll just make it reactive, because it's the fastest way for us to do this. Later, what's going to end up happening is, again, I'm going to create animations for this, and the animation is going to handle Katon kicking off, and then she will stay there, and basically the way that those are going to be handled is that the state definition, you know, it'll enter the state, and it'll tell the animator to call a certain animation. And then when she's ready to strike down, we'll tell the animator component to call that animation too. So this is going to be the bare bones system that'll handle it until we have animations in place. The way we do that is just we reference our player status. We can even use the number of ticks. And actually what we're going to end up doing is I need to write these states first. I actually need to write these states so that we have those referenced. Okay. Which, by the way, we're not doing the actual radial damage just yet. I just want to get the functionality of it working. Also, another thing I want to set up, because we did have... Where do we have that at anyways? Yeah, the death dramatic pause time. Let's add another value. Public float, super pause time. I'm gonna do half a second should be enough. Oh wait, hang on. It needs to be get private set. There we go. That's how that should be worked. Okay. We do something similar with player states generic when we die. There's our player state death entry. On player state entered, we run game time scale manager start dramatic pause and use a value from player status death dramatic pause time. We're doing something similar with that for the super here. Let's start setting this up. Public class player state super start. Hang on. Oh, it's base player Katon state. That's what we need in order to be able to have a reference to the abilities thing. And then for now, I'm going to do this the simple way. Override player state entered. First things first. I think base player abilities where I have the activated super sound. Yeah. Okay. So. Oh yeah, and of course, I state adjust camera, and I state override camera acceleration. Let's implement both of those. this back up, please and thank you. Okay. Acceleration. Let's have it return 200, similar to the death state. Deceleration is actually... I don't remember if going down makes it decelerate slower or going up makes it decelerate slower. But we'll find out. The distance to player. What did we set for the death? Use distance to player death from the camera controller. I do want that to be a standardized value, which means that I am probably going to want to add that to the camera controller. Right below distance to player death, let's set that up. Field, serialized field. At some point, I'm gonna need to change all of these combinations to what I'm about to do. Public, float, distance to player super pause. Get private set. So it's written as 6 here. Can I find what we were setting it up here as? It is 6. Okay. Let's go with 8. All right. Probably actually let it stay in that for the duration of the state, because we're gonna immediately transition into whatchamacallit. Actually, go ahead and use block body instead. Where I will do actually, I don't think we need that, because... Man, thank you for lurking today. How are you doing? Actually, hang on. Yeah, should we use... You don't cache it or anything. This is player super pause. Camera look range, we want to return 0. Zoom in specifically on the player. Camera max speed, turn -1. Okay. So on player state entered. Actually, the pause time, I mean, it is still going to be a parameter within player stats. We can tweak that if we need to. But it's probably not... I was thinking like, oh, I don't think it should be standardized between characters, because actually some of them will have like longer startup animations, but we have it as a parameter in player stats. We can tweak that there. So yeah, so game... What am I missing here? Where's the death state? Here. Game timescale manager is what it is. Oh. That's what I was looking for. Scary. Scary statements. Hurt my wrist. It's better. No, I'm joking. No, not end dramatic pause. What am I looking for? Start dramatic pause. Duration will be player dot super pause time. And we also want to do... I want to make this a base player abilities thing, honestly. I'll put it right down here. Public virtual void. Might even actually make it part of player effects, maybe? So you have a reference to player effects from here, right? Technically speaking, I think that's actually done through player status. Has the reference. Or is it actually through... It's actually individual to the abilities object. I see. The player effects Katon itself does actually have generic effects handler as a base. Perfect. Go to definition. Let's set those up. First things first. Which this should be gotten rid of because we have a static for this now. We're gonna need to figure that out. Oh, I know, this generic one-shot audio source. That's not necessarily a disposable audio thing. The disposable audio thing is going to be handled a different way. Alright, so, public void, generic, super ability activation. Actually, call this standard super ability activation. Or, actually, I'll call it super ability activation and then virtual it. I'm also going to set up a component finder for base player abilities. Which is actually just going to find it through not abilities and player status exists. Then I'll set abilities to player status abilities. Awesome. Super ability activation. So now we can reference that. That comes in handy because we'll need to get the sound for that. Again, in theory, I would also have this method handle the animation on the screen, and possibly some extra particle effects that kind of fit the character action / fighting game vibe that I want this to have. But for now, it's gonna do it's just gonna do the one thing for now, which is game spawn handler. Play disposable audio. Actually, we're going to need to store this real quick. Abilities dot activate super sound. It actually does not matter where this is spawned because we're going to set it to play no matter what. So I could probably just throw vector 3.0 here, because we're then going to do, first off, use explicit type, disposable audio dot audio source, spatial blend 0, and that's it. That should work. To do character cut in to do which granted I could probably actually make that part of a UI method. It's probably gonna be what that ends up being. And then to do other VFX on screen, such as a spark on character position. Something else I probably want to set up is in player status, I want to have a method that is going to be consume core charge. Another thing that needs to be handled is that in all of these super effect states, the state needs to set the player to intangible. At least in Katan's states. Olivia's is going to be different, in which her, walking state, she won't be intangible, but she will still have, damage resistance. Which is probably still going to be set up in a similar way, where we have the state be set up as a, damage intercept layer. Okay, but, I need a method. Call this public void consume core charge for super. Let's actually call this on perform. Actually, we'll call it perform super ability. And then we're going to add a summary here. Consumes core charge. And activates other special effects upon successfully starting the super ability. I actually set something up to where, like, core charge required is a separate value. Hold on. How do we handle that again? Oh wait, no, this is part of abilities. What am I doing? This is part of abilities. This shouldn't be part of player status. Right? Yeah, no. I might be stupid. This shouldn't be part of player status. It should be part of base player abilities. Yeah, because core charge is handled here. Core charge is handled here. I might be stupid. And yeah, and then we can specifically set up a virtual void, on perform super ability. Which might make it a protected, actually. Which it has no function to begin with. But it will be called at the end of perform super ability. Alright, so now we can look in here and figure out how this stuff is ran. Base core charge required is a value. And then maximum core charge is a separate value. Okay. Okay, okay. And actually, you know what? I might make the on perform still public. Because Olivia is going to have some special processing on how her core charge meter works when she's using her multi-blood system. So I might need that to be public, actually. I may also simplify her super ability to where it just charges towards the closest enemy and performs it immediately, and it's just a one-shot. Rather than an install. I might end up doing that, because that does simplify things down. Simplify this by just making it a one-shot against closest target. Actually, I might not put that in this field. I'll probably actually just... simplify the super. I just make me one shot against this target. You should probably like automatically choose what is the closest target, which kind of makes sense. She is essentially supposed to be a foil to Katon's playstyle, where she is up close and personal with every enemy. Might make it biased towards like enemies that are in front of you, but you know, if there's no enemies in front of you, then it will freely turn the fuck around and obliterate someone in front. For now, I'll probably just set this up in a very simple way. For charge is going to be set to a value. We use mathf max between 0, so we want to clamp it to 0 basically, and then we take the current core charge and subtract base core charge required. We'll set something up later to make it so that there's stat specs that can modify that. For example, Olivia's Melty Blood install. We'll probably want to update UI here somehow. But I might also just make the UI observe the core charge, honestly. Could also just have us fire the effects handler on this. Nah, because we don't have the reference here. Or do we? This is base player abilities. How do we normally handle raise dodge effects? It is in base player abilities. It's on damage during dodge. I see. That's using player stats of generic effects handler. player status has its own reference to the generic effects handler. And then, but the generic effects handler can also be inherited from. Okay. Which means that two objects know this by different names, which is interesting. There's probably some C# aficionados who are cringing at that concept. It's fine. It'll work just fine. Let's set some stuff up. So, we do now have that, so abilities reference, we're gonna do perform super ability. And then we're also going to want our effects Katon. Oh, standard protocol, Solaria Serene Blossom. Thank you very much for the raid. Oh, I know you. You're Aralega's significant other. Standard protocol, I'm Katon, hobby game developer / VTuber. Hey there, Aralega as well. I'm just doing some game dev stuff. I'm trying to shake off some rust because I have been, I've been low on, not motivation, just momentum, because I ended up having to take most of last week off due to a bunch of real-life events and whatnot. As far as what I'm working on, it's the same, toaster gun, project. And right now I'm trying to do a super attack. We're going to slam down on the ground and do some radial damage. Though I haven't implemented that part yet, I'm mostly trying to get the states working. And yeah. So we also need abilities reference, effects handler, super ability activation. So I'll play the sound, eventually we'll play particle effects. We have perform super ability is going to consume the core charge and activate other special effects. We start dramatic pause. Love the idea of a VTuber game with indies. Yeah. Yeah. So after that, we want to then do on player state tick. I believe we don't need base for that. Actually, why do we have base for that? Hang on. Player state's generic. Virtual void on player state entered. Yeah, there's nothing in the default implementation of player state entered, so we don't need base.on player state exit for entered. Probably not on player state exit either. Yeah. You don't need those. Oh, I had them there. Basically, the instant we get here, but specifically what we're going to want to do is if our current state tick is greater than 1, we want to start doing the transition to the next state. So I think we need to do player current state ticks is greater than or equal to 1, I think. That's similar to how we're handling the death state, for example, I think. Find the death state again. Or death entry state, that is. On player state tick. Oh, you're actually waiting for the pause type. Okay. Forgot about that. Probably actually need to check that as well. So let's do that. I'll probably do it. We'll replace this with that, honestly. Alright. Let's start working on the next state. Public class. Their state, Katon, super, wait target. That's gonna be what I call it. And base player Katon state. Does it need state adjust camera or override camera acceleration? Probably not, honestly. Although, both of these are going to need some stuff, first and foremost. During their constructor, we need to set up some stuff. So super start. Generate constructor. Action lock needs to be set to. Everything is probably what we need. In fact, just copying off of. Yeah. Action lock everything. The state type is going to be different though. State type is going to be ability rather than interaction. That's going to be how Super Start works. Now, the question is, I think if we do lock the movement input, the movement input is still readable. It just isn't read by the movement handler, if I recall correctly. Yes. So the movement input on player movement is updated like this. So what I want to do is during super wait target, we'll lock inputs. So basically the same constructor. Generate constructor. Setting action lock to everything, state type to ability. But then we're going to read the movement input from player input handler. And then what we're gonna do is probably have a constant speed that we run at. In fact, we're gonna set this up. Check posture. Gotta get up and rotate. Okay, fine. I'll get up and rotate. Also did a little stretchy in there. Also still sweaty. It's annoying. Yeah. This is gonna be K underscore Kraber kick, targeting move speed. For now I'm gonna set that to 10. Yeah. And technically speaking, I actually probably could have set up a custom movement state. But... And actually, you know what we do need to set up? So if we are going to use the player's position as the targeting handler, here's the thing. It's going to try and push itself out of other objects. And granted, actually, right now it kind of doesn't. But, eventually I'm going to need it to. Because I think actor movement currently has the behavior that I'm thinking of. Maybe. Actor overlap push, yeah. That is a thing. So I might need something to stop them from getting pushed around. Maybe. Set up as a property within player movement for now, and we'll do it the lazy way, which it really shouldn't be, but oh well. I'll make it public set. Just said it's set to true other movement actors, not just enemies. Other movement actors are not pushed around by this entity. And then at some point I want to implement this into the other actor movement controller. But for now, we're just going to set up... where'd actor movement go? There we go. Here's actor overlap push. that's annoying. Why did I write it this way? That's not how this should be working. That's not at all how that should work. We need a list of colliders. To push equals a new list, which can be simplified. And then here instead we'll use toPush.count. Use the toPush list instead of the array. So if checkSelf does not equal character controller, and wait, why is it even called checkSelf? Probably because the only check that I was doing there is whether or not it's the same character controllers themselves. Still, why the fuck did I write it this way? I'm gonna do a inverted check.tryget component out player movement. Oh. I'm actually going to put like a to-do here. Actually, I'm going to put it on the next line. Up with inheritance yet. Or player movement dot is intangible is false. In that case, toPush add the checked collider. So that's the way that should be handled. Alright. Let's set up some overrides. On player state entered. Set the is intangible flag to true. Override the exit. Upon set player movement is intangible. False. There actually is also an intangible value in player status, I'm noticing. least I thought I saw it. Yeah. Which I don't know what this is used for. It's using the status effect make player intangible. Interesting. Might end up using that for the this super ability. In fact, actually, what we're probably going to do is we want to check if the state we're moving to is... Because we probably want to keep staying in... We want to stay intangible as we move into the actual attack part. Public class player state super attack. Base Keton state. That way we do if to state is not player state Keton super attack, then we will do the following. I'm actually going to use add braces here so that automatically formats that. Actually run to do intangible status effect. Which I might even make that part of the other thing, maybe. But oh well. And then we'll actually always set intangible to false when exiting this state. We will assume that we are already intangible entering this state. Also, I gotta go to the bathroom. I'm gonna BRB. Everybody take a stretch break. And also a pee break if you need it. BRB. tummy's starting to get a little grumbly, so I'm grabbing a snack. So I apologize for that. Grabbing my usual emergency rations. Which again, I'm very, very pleased with how I represented that in game. The actual emergency rations item. Okay. Let's have a couple of variables here. So I believe our tick rate is still 60. Triple check. Time. Fixed time step is 0167. Yeah, so that's 60 frames per second. As such, that should be 15 ticks to impact. And hit stop time will probably also make it 15 frames. These are going to be public variables that we can tweak later as we see fit. Actually, not skid, let's call this slide impulse. Let's do 10. That's right. You know what we need to do? We need to set up a system such that we don't face towards aim if we're player action locked out aiming works. What that actually means is I'm probably going to want to go to our generic dodge and lock aiming. Once we have our dodge direction figured out, I'm gonna set the players forward to that. That way we'll have less of that problem of the effects being in a different position depending on where we're like facing when we do the dodge. That'll probably make it look a lot nicer as we're doing that. Probably. I'm actually gonna need to set some stuff up, though. Let's see what's going on here. Base player abilities. We have like a defined states kind of thing. We have defined custom death state. And we have defined dodge state. We don't have anything for... Wait, create ability player states. Is a virtual void. But you'll probably have those handled in the per component situation. So probably do, you know, we'll override it and then do call base and then define our special states for the abilities. To do override create ability player states, so we call base, and then we'll define all the things. I think what we're gonna end up doing is I'm going to make a public, we're going to make it a public get protected set. Base player Katon state array. Kraber kick states. Get protected set. New array of length 3. Although I might extend that to 4 if I do the enraged version. But that'll be something we do later. so the way we're doing this is... Hold on. You know what else I'm gonna need? Need to add it to our states. There's that stuff for your states. But we'll only do it if, you actually specify it in. We'll set it up like that then. No by default. There we go. That way it keeps the rest of them as fine. Okay, we'll also want to do state registry here. Player status, player states. Actually, we don't need to set this value because we're probably just going to do this the simple way, which is a new array of base player Kton states. Where we then do this. Technically speaking, we actually don't need to store all 3 states in base Kton abilities, because you know what we could do? We could set a reference to the next state in the states themselves. Maybe. Nah, actually I don't like that. I'm gonna keep it this way. It leaves us open to us potentially being able to use them individually if we need to. So do create state with reference, new. What do you mean? Oh, it's super ability, isn't it? Yeah, okay. Kton super start. State registry. No, not semicolon, because we're initializing an array. We'll need a semicolon there, though. So we do 3 of these. So we do super wait target, and then super attack. Boom. Those are the states. Go back to base player abilities. Do you have like a dodge input? Called by player input handler. At the moment, I probably don't actually need something that'll handle it by that. think for now we'll just keep it as a super input. So actually, when I come down here where we have the perform super ability, let's set some stuff up here. Probably like wool can perform super ability. And then public virtual void on can perform super ability. Return true by default. But not void, bool. Yeah. Oh, I don't need the return keyword if I'm using that block body. Cool, okay, got it. Understandable. And obviously the first thing we check is if the core charge is above the base core charge required. If it is, return false. In fact, I'm actually going to add braces here to do UI animation to deny soup. Else return on can perform super ability. Okay. So we get super input, or super ability input, honestly. Oh, you'll probably also want this stuff. Player status is alive, current action lock has flag. You'll want to start new ability in the middle of that. So this will be done without any sort of confirmation that you weren't able to do it. Whereas if you don't have enough core charge, then you want to say, hey, dipshit, look at your core charge meter. It is not full. You cannot do a super if you don't have the meter, etc., etc. Okay, so then we do I might actually have it be empty because it is a thing that we want to handle. With character. Also, you might need something here in the can perform super ability, whether it should be playing things that it needs to. done out like that. Awesome. Actually, what we could do is, on super ability will be the virtual void, and then, here we actually do if can perform super ability. It's true on the input. Do on super ability. That's probably it. And then this is where we override it in base Kton abilities. Player status. Set player state. We do Kraber kick states 0. Of course, Kton Super Start is going to do calling the abilities referenced on perform super ability. We do the super ability activation effects in the effects handler, and we start the dramatic pause. Then, with on player state tick, once we are unpaused, we say player set player state. Go abilities reference. Kraber kick states 1. One other thing that I might want to do is I might actually make super ability input virtual. On super ability will be the semi-abstract one. In fact, I might actually just make it abstract. Base player abilities is abstract, right? Yeah, it is. I might just make this one abstract. Cool. That way, for example, if I do decide that pressing Q during the super will make Kton come down early, then I can just override super ability input to do that. Of course, what we want to do is find where we call dodge input, which actually I'm going to go back here. Handle ability inputs. Hey, look. I'm going to do it the same thing. Just because, once again, I don't think I'm gonna run with different behavior depending on pressing and releasing for now. But it would be easy for me to set this up. I could actually have, like, you know, a separate check of if it was released this frame. Then we'll fire to that. I am also noticing, hey, we're checking this every time. You know what we could do? But actually, hang on. Base player abilities. Player abilities equals player status. Player abilities. If player abilities does not exist or is null, just short circuit. Guard clause. That way we don't need to check this for each of these input checks. Okay. So yeah, so after we finish with our dramatic pause, go create our kick states 1, which will be the super weight target. And let's set up a parameter here. Max weighting ticks. Let's go with 120. Another thing we're going to set up is here. We want to do a public transform target. If we have a target, we can try and like follow the target to make it a little bit easier to hit. Actually, nah. I think it's cooler not having that. Yeah, like predict their movement a little bit. I think that's fine. Okay, so next weighting tick. So we need to override tick. If player current state ticks is greater than or equal to max weighting ticks, to consider allow pressing Q to do it faster. We'll just do set player state. Lily's reference. Favorite kick states 2. We will also need to add something here to where we can move around. I forgot about that. I'll just throw a to-do here for now. Allow player movement with exact speed. Okay, but also we will want, even though we don't have something for player state entered right now, to do animation would go here. Also, as it stands, the entry should also have that. To do animation. Also set animator to run in unscaled time. Another thing we need to do is anytime we exit this state, which actually this doesn't have an on-player state exit. Interesting. Let's override exit and say to do reset animator to work in scaled time again. Yeah, that'll handle those things. The wait target doesn't need anything to do with the animator, because you're just gonna keep her hanging in the air. And then with the actual super attack, we're doing some stuff with ticks. We're gonna grab our tick real quick. Current state ticks. Let's use some simple if statements here, which is not great, but meh. To do deal damage, to do play impact effects, and then we'll do impact time plus impact pit stop time. And we'll do our slide impulse. We're just going to set velocity to transform forward. multiplied by slide impulse speed. Another thing we want to set up is, first of all, we're missing a constructor. Let's try and get that done. Generate constructor. Deselect all. We do not need these actually configured. But what we do need is an action lock, first and foremost. Which I think we'll go with everything. Yeah. And then it's state type. And state type equals ability. And then we have a custom movement state, which I have to remember how to do that. I can actually go look at aiming. Oh, I see. We have, movement speed scalars. Okay. And that's gotta be done on enter. That's not something we can do in the constructor, probably. Oh well, that's fine. Movement speed values dot ground friction. What's our default ground friction? Just to get a reference. It's 40? Go at 10. Actually, wait, we gotta check the object. It's probably different here. It's 80. We'll go with 30. Or maybe 20. Oh, that's why, because there's an update aiming move speed. This is supposed to be to check the status effects if they're different. I forgot about that. Oh well. So in theory, we could actually do this as the constructor. So I think it is still set up. I think. We'll see. And then we also need, state exit time. Which I think is gonna be like 100. Actually, nah, we'll go with 120. With the impact time and hit stop time, that makes half a second. This will make a second and a half. And I think all we do here is just go player set, player state, to whatever is the neutral state. How do we do that again? probably just go look at dodging. When she's supposed to be good at dodging. Player.get neutral state. Cool. Now clear up everything. Alright, now let's set up the prototype super animation. Now that we have those things defined, we're gonna kind of cheat this. Actually, instead of the float move duration, we're gonna do move duration. Make it 15. So we'll go off of ticks of the state. Okay, and then, so in order to figure that out, first of all, let's calculate the direction. I'm gonna take vector 3, rotate towards. Take up. Vector 3 dot up, yes, that's what we wanted. And then negative transform. Actually, player dot transform dot forward. I do still need to set something up to where the player will face differently, so that they're not facing away from the camera when they activate. Max radians is move angle times mathf dig to rad. So I didn't realize it's radians here. Don't change the magnitude. There. Easy peasy. And then we're gonna do this the stupid way. We're gonna do this the stupid way because it's prototype code. Current player state is player state keeps on super weight target. We'll do something, and then we're just gonna do an else if chain. Fuck it. Current player state is. It's prototype code anyways. Actually, I have a float alpha. transform.local position is default position. Else, we should do add braces. There we go. Actually, the way this works is alpha is going to be that actually, you know, or well, no, because we're going to use the player. So going up, it should just be a straight division. Current state ticks. Divided by convert to float. Move duration. However, if we're doing the attack part of it, then alpha will instead be set to 1 minus this value. And that should work. Otherwise, transform local position. Now realizing I don't need a direction like this. I can actually do vector 3 back. Which, this is absolutely something I could have done just with some math, but eh. Yeah, since we're doing a local position, we don't actually need, like, the world space direction. We just go back. Next to do, we still need default position. But then we need to add on to that the following. Direction multiplied by 2 values, which will be alpha times distance. Move distance specifically. And that'll handle the animation. I think this does also still handle if current player state is null, then it shouldn't do this. It shouldn't go into any of these if statements. And that should work. That should just immediately work, I think. We shall see. We just need to set up all the references and stuff, though. So the capsule needs the Protect Aton Super Animation component. Set player status reference. Then you find the abilities script. Activate super sound. Get ready for a jump scare again. I'm very sorry. Begin super. That's still so loud. Is there anything else I'm missing? I think that's it. Let me find a core charge orb. Let's just set the value of this core charge orb to 1,000. Charge amount. 1,000. Let's see if that works. I should also, you know, like have a UI element for it. But, oh well. Alright, I think that means... Oh, yep. Unfortunately, don't move, though. And also, it went through the floor. I'm now realizing something. Hang on. Alpha needs to be clamped. Clamp 01 alpha. That'll work better. We don't actually have the movement. That's right. We haven't implemented the movement yet. We just have the activation and stuff, which that's already very much bam. The little impact frame there, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. It's not activatable anymore. We have ran out of the juice. We do not have any more juice. Okay. Let's... here's the thing. I am tired. And we started late. And I am happy that we were able to touch the stuff and we made a thing work. I didn't actually get any of the actual damaging parts of it working yet, but I'd like to do that soon-ish. We've at least got the super animation works. Let's do that one more time. Let's see one more time. It's still a little loud. I should probably turn that down a bit. Also probably want to make the impact frame a little bit faster, maybe. Yeah, probably actually want to go. Hang on. Let's fix the sound real quick. Oh, that's right. That's engineer effects. Don't think I have that pinned. Let me go to definition. There we go. Yeah. So when we do this, audio source volume, like 0.7F. That'll probably make it a lot more bearable. Might even need to go like 0.5 because the volume scales in Unity are weird. That's better. And comparing it to like gunshots, yeah, that's decent. That is bearable. Yeah, I think I might call things here because I'm tired. I got 3 hours of work out of it. And I'll try and work on more stuff. I actually kind of want to do some modeling work too, but I think I'm done with stream for now. I want to grab some food, wind down. Again, it sucks just not having that momentum, and also it sucks that I started late because I was just black and low energy when I woke up. I actually woke up super late in general, so... Also, we haven't had anybody check in tonight either, outside of Amy and Hannah. Assuming they also lurked, but yeah. I haven't seen any of my fellow developer heads. So tomorrow I'm going to be... I also lost my Doom chat. Nothing there either. Tomorrow, I think I'm going to do Deep Rock Galactic, but I was supposed to contact people this morning to see if anybody was interested in wrapping up the Easter event real fast. I forgot. Probably gonna end up just like finishing it myself tonight, honestly. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm gonna wrap things up here. We have the states set up. We have the state machine set up. We start our super, fly off. We seem to be flying off in the wrong direction. I might need to kind of check that. In fact, actually, yeah, I think I'm doing it backwards. I'm rotating towards back when I should be rotating towards up. Because that's the angle I put on that. But I'm going to fix that later. Yeah, for now, I will head. I'll go over to my chatting scene. I'm gonna wrap up stream because I'm tired. I'm gonna see who else is on. Excuse me. Prefer to drop in on someone I'm familiar with. Hello, which was on. Felix is on. I'll drop in on Felix. Specifically, Felix is on doing software and game design. Okay, let's do that. Let's set that up. I'm assuming nobody's really here for the raid message. I'll throw it in here anyways. But I doubt anybody is here for it. I'll probably just drop it and save it. But if somebody else uses it, then I'll definitely use it. Y'all know the drill. You can unlock the emote using channel points. Otherwise, with that being said, ladies, gentlemen, everyone between, thank you very much for tuning in to my stream. Hope to see you guys next time that I'm on. Until then, this is Kbity, over and out.